Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Dragons and Dice. And on this week's episode, we're going to do another one of our D&D Shenanigans builds. And this one is going to be all about changing our fate. We're going to try to reroll as many dice as we can, get advantage any way possible, and have just some crazy stats that will let us manipulate the world around us in and out of combat and be a real pain in the DM's butt. And I'm calling this build the Madam of Manipulation, or Monsieur if you want to go that way. Let's check it out. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. My theory on this build is we're going to try to get as many ways as we can to have advantage on our attack rolls, ways of re-rolling our damage on attacks. We're going to have really good charisma stat, and we're going to try to get all those good deception, intimidation, persuasion abilities that'll let us influence the world around us when we're out of combat. And then we're also going to grab up as many utility cantrips and low-level spells so that we can just be a terror in and out of combat on just making the world our own and imposing our will. Even though we won't end up with like a lot of high-level spells, we'll end up with some pretty good spell slots, and we'll have a pretty viable way of doing decent damage throughout it, even with this interesting build that's going to have 4 different classes and no second-level class features. So let's check it out. And for starting off, we'll kick it off with our species. And I mean, if you're talking about redoing rolls, we got to go halfling here. That awesome ability, any D20 check that we roll a 1 on, we're lucky now, and we just get to re-roll that. And it feels like the perfect spot to kick off a character that you're just going to make that's going to be based around redoing the bad stuff that happens and like changing your fate. Now for our background, I'm going to go with a merchant background, and this is going to let us put a +2 into our charisma and a +1 into our intelligence. And then we get the lucky feat, which plays right in with our halfling luck and what this build's all about. And starting off, that's going to let us redo any D20 roll. Proficiency bonus times per day. That'll be 2 times off the rip, and then 6 by the end of the build. And I mean, we're off to a really good start re-rolling dice. With that, we get animal handling and persuasion for skills here, which is one of the 3 that we need, because being able to have a good persuasion skill, it's almost like casting a spell on somebody when you're out of combat. For stats, this is going to be one of the crazier ones. We're going to go with a 15 strength, an 8 dex, a 12 con, a 13 intelligence +1 for a 14, a 10 wisdom, and a 14 charisma for a 16 with the +2 that we get from our background. And that's got to be one of like the flattest stat box I've ever built on a show. And that's going to let us bounce all over the place and get all the things that we want, since our build is going to be about doing stuff twice and being able to manipulate the world around us. It's going to let us have that option to jump all over the place. So now it's time for our class. And if we know we're going to a bunch of different places, let's pick it based off the saves that we want. And for that, I'm going to start off with Paladin, as they have Wisdom and Charisma saves. They're going to give us heavy armor proficiency, which is going to be really nice because we're going to be able to get out there in the battlefield and be up front and just doing our shenanigans. So level 1 Paladin. The 2 skills, I'm grabbing up Intimidation and Insight, as this will let us start our journey of manipulating people when we're out of combat. And then we also get Lay on Hands, which is nice. We get Pally Spells, and we get 2 Weapon Masteries. And I think with this build, I'm going to try to be kind of tanky, because we aren't going to be like the massive damage dealer, but we will be able to get out front and take a beating with our plate and our shield. And since we're concerned with like getting to redo dice, this is going to be a weird one, but I'm going to pick a rapier, but I'm going to use my strength or charisma stat to attack with it. And that gives us the Vex property, and that's just another way of us getting advantage. And then probably take the hand axe for other weapon mastery, because that's another Vex weapon and another way for us to get advantage. And then for our first level Pally spells, we'll grab up Divine Favor, whichever one, as it gives us extra D4 to our attacks, and it's concentration free. And then for concentration spell, we'll grab up Command Duel, because that's a way of us manipulating the battlefield and forcing someone onto us and stopping them from being able to go and get our buddies. At level 2, we're still Paladin. We get another spell. Let's grab up Cure Wounds, as it's nice utility. We get Paladin Smite, which means we always have Divine Smite ready now. And then we also get a fighting style. And if you want to be really tanky, you could go defensive for that extra armor boost. But I think since we're trying to be manipulative with this character, that protection is the best choice. Because if someone's within 5 feet of us, it lets us stick our shield out and impose disadvantage on an attack roll, which is a good way of manipulating the battlefield. At level 3, we're going to get a subclass, and we're going Vengeance Pally because of the Vow of Enmity, and this is going to give us a surefire way for 1 minute, use of our Channel Divinity, and we now have advantage on all our attacks, and it's just a good way for us to manipulate the dice that we're dropping at the table. And then we get another spell, and I'm going to take Protection from Good and Evil for the same reason that we took Vex Weapons. It's a good way for us, if we want to concentrate on that, to impose disadvantage if we're fighting aberrations, celestials, elemental, fae, fiends, undead, all those. And we can make them attack with disadvantage. And then I think we should just stay the course. If I was playing this like I do these builds, like if I was going to play it in game, this is the way I would play it. I want to stay the course until we get extra attack because it's just so much fun to make 2 attacks instead of 1. And so at level 4, we're going to get our first feat. And if you're talking about changing your fate, I think the best one of all the feats in the new material is got to be Mage Slayer. It lets us boost our strength to 16, which is nice. And we can force disadvantage on concentration saves when we hit. And we also get the once a day ability to just, if we fail intelligence, charisma, or wisdom save, we just now say no and we choose to pass it. We also get another spell here. I'd probably grab up Searing Smite as it's got the most potential for damage, as it can last for a couple rounds if people fail their saves. But other than that, we're off to a good start for manipulating the table. At level 5, we finally get extra attack. We get our Find Steed spell that the Pallies all get now. And then we get a 2nd level Paladin spell. And for that, you can kind of pick your favorite. I would probably go something with utility. Our to hit isn't that great, so I'd probably take like magic weapon so that we could boost our to hit until we get our strength stat, or better yet, our charisma stat maxed out and find a way to attack with it. At level 6, it's time we start jumping around a lot, and I think we should go Warlock. And we're going to get Invocation here. And amazingly enough, we are not going Pact of the Blade right now. Our charisma and strength are even, and so we're actually going to go with Pact of the Chain for our level 1 invocation, as it's another way for us to get advantage on attacks or give advantage to one of our party members. And it's also a really good way for us to be able to move through the world without having to physically be there, and we can cast touch spells through it, and it's just a really nice way of influencing the world around you, especially when you're out of combat. It's great for scouting dungeons. It's really fun for playing around with in towns, and it's a good way of manipulating the world around you. And going Warlock, we get a couple of cantrips. I'm going to take Eldritch Blast for 1. That'll be our kind of range damage for this whole character build. And then I'm going to take a utility cantrip, and I want Thaumaturgy, since this is where we're going to be able to get that in our spell list. And it's going to give us all the utility that cantrip gives, make our lights shine, make lights flicker, make flames flare up, and we can make our voice booming. And then we get a couple 1st level spells that we can use with our Pack Magic or our Pally spells. And I'm going to grab up Hellish Rebuke. That way we have a way of using our reaction reliably if we want to spend our Pack Magic spells on that. And then, since we're trying to go for like a manipulative feel, I'm going to go with Charm Person, as it's got good in and out of combat utility. It's honestly a better spell out of combat, since they don't get to make the save with advantage if you're not fighting them yet. At level 7, we'll go Warlock 2. We get an extra invocation here and another spell. I'm going to grab Arms of Hadar with the spell, as it gives us a way of doing damage on other people's turn and kind of forces people that hit us to, take a little backlash with it. And then I'm going to grab Eldritch Mind so that now we have advantage on concentration saves. And then for the other invocation, I'm going to get Lessons of the First Ones. And that way we can take the Savage Attacker, which is kind of a little suboptimal of a feat, but it's kind of fun for what this feel is when we're redoing dice. Now we get to roll our damage twice, once per turn, and take the higher of the two. And it just goes nicely with the feel that we're going with. We also get Magical Cunning here with our 2nd level Warlock, so that we can spend a minute and we can get one of our Pack Magic slots back. But I think that's it for Warlock for a little bit, and let's go start jumping around. And at level 8, I want to go Wizard, which is why we put that extra point into Intelligence. And when we go Wizard, we get 3 cantrips and 6 level 1 spells. And for those cantrips, I'm grabbing just utility. Eldritch Blast will be basically our only damage cantrip for the whole build. And the rest of this will be out of combat stuff that is really fun and ways for us to manipulate the world around us. We're going to grab up Prestidigitation, Minor Illusion, and Mage Hand from here. And now we have Thaumaturgy to go along with that from our Warlock list. And man, we're just like a cantrip killer out of combat. We can do so much crazy stuff and manipulate the world and pull off like distractions and make lights flare and make little images. And it just seems like it would be a really fun character to play out of combat. And then we're also going to get a bunch of spells. And for those, it's going to be the same focus. We're going to focus on getting to redo rolls, drop a bunch of dice, and manipulate the world around us. And I think there's a couple that are obvious right off the bat that are really good in-game utility that are a great way of manipulating the world. And that's going to be shield and absorb elements, because it's like you're going to get hit and now you don't. You just stop it, or you're going to take this fire damage and now you just absorb it. And so I feel like those are really on point, and we'll grab them. I also want Tensor's Floating Disc. It's a fun spell to have. You can now tow 500 feet around floating behind you. Detect magic, as it's good to know where all the stuff is. If you're trying to manipulate the world, you need to know where the magical traps are. And then I'll probably take Magic Missile for a actual damage spell, as it's just guaranteed damage. That's going to be our wizard start off. At level 9, we'll be a wizard too. We get 2 more spells, and we get expertise in one of our skills. And I'm going to take expertise in Persuasion, as it is probably the best skill to have if you're working on manipulation. And then for the spells, I'm going to grab a couple language spells. Let's get Comprehend Languages. That way we always know what is being said around the table. And then Illusory Script, as it gives us a chance to, send out some hidden messages. This is going to be a really fun character to play. It's got a lot of strange abilities. It'd be a real pain for the DM to deal with. It's also going to be really fun to play in combat. I mean, we're starting off at Paladin. We got Smite. We have Vow of Enmity. We can attack with advantage, and we're going to have good spell levels going Wizard because they're full caster. So it's going to be a really interesting build. It doesn't seem like it would be optimal for combat, but it's actually not going to be too shabby when we get done. At level 10, we're going to be a Wizard 3, and this is the whole reason we wanted to get that intelligence stat above 13 so we can multi-class here, because we want the Diviner subclass, because they get the most awesome ability in D&D, the Portent dice, where you can just literally change any D20 roll. You get 2 of these dice, they're D20s, you roll them at the end of a long rest, and then anytime that there is a D20 rolled by somebody you can see, you can just swap one of those out with your reaction and change that roll. And it is a great way of like meta influencing a table, because you actually can change what a DM's rolling. And I think it just really plays in with the manipulator ability that we're going for here. We also get Divination Savant here, and we get 2 extra divination spells, and we're going to stick with that same feel. And we're going to grab up what I think as a DM is the most annoying spell in D&D, Detect Thoughts, because now not only do you have to write out all the backstory for your NPCs, you got to know what they're thinking while you're role-playing them, and it is just a great way of, getting to read someone's mind. It lets you kind of know how to go about your doings in the world. For our second divination spell, I'm going to get Locate Object, so now we can read minds and find crap, and the world deserves to mold. We also get second level wizard spells here. One of those has to be Enhance Ability, as it gives us a way of having advantage on ability checks when we use the skill that we boost with it. And then I think if you're talking about making the world your oyster, you need the Knock spell. That way you can just open any door, even if it makes a big loud boom. So with this build, I really want to get to Wizard 5. That way we can get 3rd level spells, because there's a couple that are great for manipulating the outcomes of battles. And so we'll stay the course. At level 11, we're going to be a Wizard 4. For our 2 spells, I'm going to grab up Augury, as it's a ritual and save us a spell slot to cast it, because we're a mage now and we're a ritual caster, which is always nice to be. And it gives us a bit of foresight. And then I'm also going to grab up Mirror Image for some defensive ability. It doesn't require concentration, and it is a good way of good chance that you don't even get hit when people attack you. And then for the feat, I want to start boosting our charisma up, as it lets us, have the greatest effect when we're interacting with NPCs. And it's also our spell casting for Paladin and for Warlock. And so we're going to get another Wizard cantrip here. We get the feat, we get the spells. For the cantrip, I'm taking True Strike. We're going to be boosting our charisma. It might be nice at some point if we wanted to throw in a True Strike for our attack. But I'm also going with the ruling on True Strike, and this is a little bit of kind of that gray area in D&D. True Strike's on the Warlock cantrip list, and it's also on the Wizard cantrip list. We're taking it as a Wizard cantrip, but the way I understand the rules is if a cantrip is on both spell lists, that it is also a Warlock cantrip, and that we can use our Charisma for True Strike instead of using our Intelligence, because our Intelligence is going to be 14, and we're never going to boost that up. If your table won't let you do that, and you take a cantrip as a Wizard cantrip you can only cast with Intelligence, then you might take True Strike from the Warlock cantrip earlier instead of Thaumaturgy. It just takes away a little bit of your utility, but that's just kind of like a little sidebar on how I think cantrips work when they're on multiple spell lists. For our feat, I'm going Telekinetic. It boosts our Charisma by 1, and we're picking Charisma as the spell casting for that. And then we get our special Mage Hand now. It now turns invisible, which is even more good shenanigans for when we're out of combat and we're using that thing to manipulate the world. And then we also get the ability to push people with our brain, and we can just, do that as a bonus action. And it's a really good feat, I think, especially if you need a boost to Charisma. And then at level 12, we are Wizard 5, and these are the 2 spells that I wanted here because I feel like they're the most manipulative of the battlefield. And that's going to be Counterspell for 1, so that you can just shut people down when they try to do things. And then Haste. I think both of these are amazing, and I think they have one of the biggest influences on battle. And so it kind of gives us a way of being manipulative on the battlefield also, because we have a lot of out-of-combat utility, but we don't have as much in combat. And because we're multi-classing, we are actually up to 4th level spell slots here, and we have 2 of those, so that's pretty nice. At level 13, let's keep this strange build going, and we're going to jump over to Fighter for a while. I mean, we have to get Action Surge on this build right, and the synergy that Eldritch Knight is going to give us is going to be really good. So at 13, I want to go Fighter 1, and we get a fighting style here, and we can either take Dueling for the extra damage, or we can take Defensive for the extra AC. I think I will be going with the Defensive because we'll always have concentration up on something. And, I mean, the best way to pass a concentration save is to just not get hit, not have to make it. And so with this, we also get Second Wind, and now we have 2 ways of healing ourselves. We get 3 more Weapons Masteries. These can be pretty much whatever you found throughout the campaign. We have plenty of ways of getting advantage, and our bonus to hit, if we want to switch to something like a Battle Axe or a Quarterstaff that has Topple, we could grab that up as it'd be a way of knocking people prone. At level 14, we're going to be a Fighter 2. We get Action Surge, so now we can go Nova on the battlefield if we want to. And we get Tactical Mind, which is really great for this build because now we can use our Second Wind to pass ability checks out of combat. And I feel like it just really plays in with, like, we're going to be pulling shenanigans in town. We're going to be telling lies and tricking people and pulling the wool over people's eyes and trying to persuade them to do things. And if it goes bad, now we can re-roll it. And if it goes bad again, we can use a luck point and re-roll it again. And it just feels really good for the build. At level 15, we're a Fighter 3. And we're going to Eldritch Knight. We get cantrips and spells, and we get the ability to summon our weapon with a bonus action, which that is one of those things that seems like nothing until you don't have a weapon and you need it to do cool stuff, and then you can just pop it into your hand, and it's like, oh man, everyone else is missing their gear, but the Pact of the Blade Warlock and the Eldritch Knight Fighter still have their swords, so it's good when it comes up. For cantrips, I'm going to grab more utility cantrips. I'm going to get Dancing Lights and Mending, as we can make lights now and we can fix stuff, which is awesome. And then for the spells, I'm going to grab up just more utility spells. We're going to get Featherfall. I'm going to grab Jump, and I'm going to grab Longstrider, and it's just going to give us a little bit of reaction if we need to go off a cliff, if we need to jump that cliff, and then if we need to move faster. So good utility there. At level 16, we're going to be a Fighter 4, and we need to get another half Charisma feat that will get us up to, 18 on our Charisma. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab Warcaster because I know we're going to go back to Warlock, and that'll let us swap out that Invocation for something else, and we can go Pact of the Blade or whatever else we want when we get last few Warlock levels. And that also lets us, like I said, boost that charisma to 18. And at level 17, we're going to be a fighter 5. We get extra attack again, which is, and we get tactical shift, and we get extra spells. And we're kind of getting full up on the lower level utility spells. We could grab up something that would be a nice spell to upcast. And I think the best spell to upcast for a low level spell is probably Chromatic Orb, because it's a usable nuke when you cast it with like a 5th level spell. It has a chance to jump every time you roll an extra, 2 of the same number. And it's just like a good spell to upcast, and it's a 1st level spell. So we'll grab up Chromatic Orb to kind of have a little nuke spell in our pocket if we want it. And then we're going to stay the course for one more level. I want to go to Fighter 6, so we get that little bonus feat. And for that, it's just going to be max charisma to 20 here. At 19, I want to go back to Warlock, and this is where we'll finish our career so that we can get another feat at level 20 to get our epic boon. Plus, this is going to let us trade out our Eldritch Mind for Pact of the Blade, and it's going to let us get a subclass. And for our subclass, let's go Fae. It gives us a lot, and we don't have a single list on the spell list that the Fae Warlocks get. So we get Calm Emotions, which is great for some more out-of-combat manipulation. We get Fairy Fire for some AoE advantage on, in combat. And then we get Misty Step, and being Fae, we can cast that 5 times for free. And we get the temp HP or the taunt that comes with it for having that special Fae Warlock Misty Step. And then we also get Phantasmal Force and Sleep. The last two not so great at this level, but we do also get another spell, and our Pack Magic goes up to level 2. I'm going to grab up some Spider Climb, so we've got, a way of scaling a building if we need to, and a way to have a climb speed. And it's just another way of us getting around the world and being able to do whatever we want. And at level 20, we're going to be a Warlock 4, and we're taking the Boon of Fate. And this is going to let us roll 2 d4s and apply that to a d20 roll as a boost or penalty, and it just fits right in with our manipulation build. And we get this ability every time we roll initiative, finish a short or long rest. So we can literally boost 1 attack roll or 1 ability save, or better yet, give a disadvantage, not really disadvantage, a reduction to an ability check every time we start combat. And if we're out of combat, we get it back at a short rest. And we also get a boost of stat here. And the sad thing is, at this point, we're kind of flat all the way across the board. So I probably just put an extra point into charisma so that we look cool as something's over 20 now. But that's basically all of our build. Let's check out all the cool stuff that this character can do. So we ended up being a Pally 5, a Wizard 5, a Fighter 6, and a Warlock 4. We end up with kind of crappy HP of 130 from our con being low and those Wizard levels, but we do actually end up with a pretty good AC at 21, wearing just base plate and shield, and we have a maxed out charisma stat, and so with Pact of the Blade, and we can attack with that. We're a plus 11 to hit with our spells and with our weapons, and we have a spell save of 19. We ended up with 2 second level Pack Magic spell slots, and we got all the way up to 2 5th level spell slots for casting. Although our highest level spells that we have are 3rd level wizard spells, but we can upcast them if we want. And combat would kind of be like throw up a concentration spell first round like haste, make an attack that round with it, and then smite as your bonus action. And then we can action surge and take 3 more attacks, and then each round after that, we can take 3 attacks and do a smite until we run out of spells. And we do have a good bit of support spells for in combat too, and a good bit of control. So we could use, a spell, use our haste attack, and smite on that with our bonus action. Or if you want to be ranged and play it safe, we can set and lob 4 Eldritch Blast every time we attack with them, and just do that all day long. But let's check out our out of combat utility. We have basically all the cantrips you can want. We have Prestidigitation. We have Mage Hand, which is invisible from our feet. We got Thaumaturgy. We got Minor Image. We got Dancing Lights. And we got Mending. And then we have most of the 1st level utility spells from all the classes that we went. And then we also have a maxed out charisma stat. So we have a plus 11 to Intimidation, and we have a whopping plus 17 to Persuasion. Sadly, we do only have a +5 to deception. Maybe we could have given up something somewhere to get our decks up high enough to get a rogue level, so we could have maxed that out. But yeah, we don't have the decks for it. But then we have a whole smattering of other goodies. We have 2 portent dice that we get back each day at a long rest. We have 6 uses of lucky that we get on a long rest. We re-roll our attacks every turn and take the higher. If we roll a 1 on a d20, we re-roll that from being a halfling. If we fail an ability save, we can use our tactical mind and add a d10 to it. And we also get those 2d4 from our Boon of Fate that we can either use as a boost or a penalty when we take a rest or when we roll initiative. And so we may not hit the hardest or have the most features from taking all the subclasses that we got, but I can guarantee you that we will be the person at the table with the most abilities to manipulate the dice and control what's happening there. And it just seems like a really fun kind of out of the box if you focused on, instead of being the best at this, you went to try to be the best at controlling the table, but not through spells or through, status effects, but through the actual dice. And I think that's just a fun and interesting way to try to build a character. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice. I hope you liked the month of August D&D Shenanigans build. I'm calling this one the Matron of Manipulation or the Papa of Persuasion, whichever way you want to go with it. Might have changed it up since the entrance, but either way, we love our alliteration here and we like doing these goofy builds. I hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, thank you all so much for listening. And if you could, tell a friend about the show and leave a like, a follow, and a comment, as all those are great ways to get more exposure. Until next time, may your D20s roll high. May your DMs be kind. Bye.